All right, guys, just want to welcome back to Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick are preview and prediction for the 2024 AAC title game going out on Friday night between Tulane and Army. Green Wave are now up to 6-point favorites, 46.5 is the total. 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC from Michie Stadium in West Point. This is Army offense that starts with Bryson Daly, a highly productive runner, a guy that's been really, a great heartbeat for this offense. They're scoring about 33 points per game compared to the 20 they were scoring last year. He's provided the biggest spark of anyone in the country, 1,354 yards rushing, 25 touchdowns. He's also done pretty good work as a passer, 8 touchdowns, 860 yards. He's not afraid to uncork it. Obviously, this isn't just the triple option. They have some variations where they, add some wrinkles in the shotgun and some legitimate passing concepts, or more improved ones, I guess you could say, compared to years past. Daly's been phenomenal, though, Nick, and it takes a nice high IQ player to operate this offense, and he's delivered big time. Those 25 TDs, and that's a large number. That's up there with Gianti.
This is certainly a fun offense to watch, led by Bryson Daly, who's a really fun and unique player. He can really air the ball out, which is unique for an Army offense. He's a great runner, obviously, more of a run-first focus kind of guy. The numbers are phenomenal, right? 1,300 yards rushing, 5.7 yards per carry, 25 touchdowns for him. Incredible numbers. Coupled that with his passing stats, 76 attempts for 860 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 1 pick. A very accurate passer when he needs to be. The comp rate's not phenomenal, right? 56%, but it's a low volume attempts of only 76 attempts. They can throw the ball when they need to. Daly, this guy, the offense runs through him. He's such a dynamic player. 135.4 yards per game on the ground is a really impressive number. He's having a phenomenal season. 25 touchdowns is no joke. And the rushing attack around him is really solid as well, with the 2 backs behind him. This is a really good offense on the ground. You've seen them be able to grind out clock, chew up points. You've seen them do that against UTSA, against North Texas, against Air Force, and has really helped propel this offense to get this team 10-1.
And now you look at the rest of the offense as well. It's not just Daly. He has a nice running back, Kanye Udo. He gets a lot of touches, over 13 per game. He's knocking on the door of 1,000 yards, and he has 9 touchdowns as well. Noah Short doesn't give as many touches, but he's a option for them in the passing game. Still has 483 yards rushing despite only getting about 5 touches per contest. So it's really going to be those 3 guys, Nick, those 2 backs, and then Daly, for the most part, just the Bryson and Kanye show. These guys help contribute to over 300 yards rushing per game. That's pretty impressive because you're not, it's typically when you see these triple option academy offenses, you see 5 or 6 different guys get numerous touches per game. It's really just those 2 guys, and they're highly efficient.
Yeah, they're highly efficient. Kanye Udoa is really solid for this team. 906, 6.2, and 9 scores. Noah Short has 57 carries for 483 and 8.5 yards a carry, 2 scores. He also has 3 receiving touchdowns on 15 grabs for 305 yards. The one big receiver for this team is Casey Reynolds with 17 grabs, 417, 24.5 yards a grab, and 3 scores. This offense is very unique for an Army offense. It's not your typical triple option offense. They've been playing good football this year. It's been fun to watch. I like what this style can do. This is a really great offense, and it's certainly worth watching in this conference title game.
And we'll go ahead and talk about the passing attack as well, because there's opportunities for them to hit plays. And that's really what the triple option offense does, is just you're hoping that you can have nice hard play action with DBs that aren't paying attention. Casey Reynolds has 417 yards on 17 receptions, and then the aforementioned Noah Short, 15 for 305 and 3 scores. And that's pretty much that for those guys. You look at an Army offensive line, though, we talk about how they have size discrepancies, and that might hurt against Notre Dame. I don't think it'll be a problem in a game like this. Connor Fincuane at left tackle is great. Left guard, Bill Kazaganis, he's been probably their best lineman. At center, Brady Smalls, a nice run blocker. Right guard, Paulo Gennarelli, he's also been very stout. And then a right tackle in Lucas Scott, who's also an elite run blocker. Overall, Nick, what are your final thoughts on this offense?
Fun offense to watch, a really good unit that puts up a lot of points, about 30 points per game, like you said. A really effective offense, a really efficient offense is really good, led by a great dual-threat quarterback who's a true runner, a solid passer at times as well. A really good offense overall that I think could give Tulane some problems.
Army is first nationally in time of possession. We now move to the Green Wave, who are 4th in time of possession, Nick. I mean, these teams love to hoard the football. I think that's why it's such an intriguing matchup. And it starts with Mekhi Hughes at running back for Tulane, over 1,300 yards rushing, 15 touchdowns. They're really held in check against Memphis this past weekend, this past Thursday night. 9 carries for 15 yards. I mean, they were trailing in that game. Pretty lousy effort from Tulane. They've been dominant throughout the year, winning majority of their games by double figures. And they even, played the Power 4 teams they went up against very tough as well. So it was a pretty lousy effort. I don't expect Tulane to look this bad in this contest. Arnold Barnes is a pretty solid number 2, 6 touchdowns, 400 yards. And Ty Thompson, the backup quarterback, will get out there occasionally with his speed, especially in the red zone, with another 6 touchdowns. This is a team that loves to hoard the ball as well, Nick. It's more methodical than a triple option. They love to line up in the I formation, lots of tight ends. A lot of that 12 personnel. Tulane, this is a team that's looking to bounce back after, again, an ugly game against Memphis. A team that's not very good on defense, and they couldn't generate any offense.
This is an offense that has to find a way to get, generating against this Army defense, has to find a way to get, positive possessions. They control the ball a lot, and, Mensa's obviously a really solid quarterback, 65% comp rate, 2,500 yards passing, 20 touchdowns to 5 picks. He's been really good for this team. Underrated player, certainly having a great year at quarterback. They have to be effective, though. They got to be efficient here. They have to make sure they can counteract Army's attempt to try and hold the ball. Can Tulane find a way to win the possession battle? If they can certainly win this game.
And you look at a guy at quarterback in Darian Mensah. It's pretty impressive that he won this job over Thompson and Kai Horton. It was a pretty nice quarterback group they have here. As a freshman, he goes after, wins the battle, 209 yards per game, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He also had some mistakes against Memphis. Didn't look his normal self. Still put up, 300-plus yards in that game playing from behind. But they had opportunities late, and that interception he had was just abysmal. Threw it downfield while they're driving into double, triple coverage, and ended the game basically. This is a team that has great receivers, Nick. I think this is a very underrated supporting cast. USC transfer Mario Williams leads the way with 831 yards. Dante Fleming is a very nice pass catcher with 577. And then you have Yulkeith Brown, a former A&M transfer, and then Alex Bauman at tight end. Hasn't been that productive this year. Does lead the team with 6 touchdowns. I mean, these are all tremendous assets to this passing game. Mensah, he's shown some nice, calm collectiveness to him. Moment shouldn't be too big for him, but we can't have a mistake like last week. That's why we need to be effective running the ball this week.
They got to be effective running the ball this week. This has to be an opportunity to make sure you balance out this offense. Got to be smart with it. I think this is a good wide receiver room and a good running back room. We'll talk about in a second. Wide receivers are some solid pieces here. Mario Williams, 831, 17.3, and 4 scores. Deontay Fleming's been really solid, 577 and 1 score for him, 19.9 yards per catch. Keith Brown's been really solid in the red zone, 4 touchdowns. Alex Bauman, the tight end, 6 red zone touchdowns as well. Good numbers there. Josh Preston was hurt earlier in this year, is not playing for this team. He was a guy they had high hopes for, but the rest of the offense has stepped up well. Williams and Fleming are 2 really solid pieces. Mensah's got to be focused, though. Avoid the turnovers, be smart with the ball, and really try to find a way to run the ball with Mekhi Hughes, who's a really good back for this team.
Now we look at an offensive line for Tulane that's also been very stout this year. Derek Graham's a great left tackle. At left guard, Shadir Hurst, he's been phenomenal as well. Hasn't allowed a sack. At center, you have a very consistent player in Vincent Murphy. In both regards for him, Josh Remich, he's not that great of a run blocker, but pass protection, he's been very solid. Rashad Green, he's probably the weakest link here, but he's still having a great year. Offensive line is very sound. Overall, this seems to be a complete offense, Nick. I mean, for how much time of possession they have, they put up over 39 points per game. They've just been running through the conference, and that's going to be the game plan here against Army. They got to be physical, and they're going to have to control time of possession.
They're going to have to control time of possession, and I think it starts with Mekhi Hughes, 243 attempts this year, 1,300 yards rushing for him, 5.4 yards per carry, 15 touchdowns, 108 yards per game on the ground, 2 receiving touchdowns as well. A good offensive line leads the way for him. They certainly block. They create good pathways for him. They've been solid as an offensive unit. They got to be strong here against this Army defensive line. They certainly have that size advantage against Army. Most of these schools do. That could really be a big advantage for this Tulane offense.
Now we move to the Army defense. This is a group that's been very good against the run this year, only giving up 103 yards per contest. You would take the Notre Dame game out of the way because you kind of knew that was going to happen against an elite opponent where they just got flat out dominated. Other than that, though, they've been phenomenal against the opponent rushing attacks. They've only allowed, other than that, 2 games of 150-plus yards. Tulsa, they beat by 42, had that number, and then Lehigh in week 1 was able to eclipse that number. Another blowout as well. So, Nick, they're not giving up anything on the ground. I think that's what makes this matchup so compelling. Elo Madazi, he's going to be their top guy at defensive end. There's no real standouts other than that, but it is a collective group. Trey Sophia, Dre Miller, Cody Harris-Miller, Kyle Lewis, and Jack LaTroy. These guys are the main guys that are in the rotation. Modazi, though, he is the pass rush specialist for them. They want to certainly create opportunities to be able to get him involved. What do you make of this group here? Because, again, they've been phenomenal against the run. This will be a big test for them, the biggest one in the conference so far.
Modazi's a really solid player for this team. 26 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. A really good player at getting the backfield and getting those sacks and tackles for loss. Cody Harris-Miller's been really good for this team. 25 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Kyle Lewis, 24 total tackles, 4 sacks for him. Another decent piece, Andre Miller, Jack Latore, and Trey Sophia are solid in rotational reps. Each of them got a tackle for loss. About 10 tackles for each of them, double-digit tackles for each of them. Solid pieces there. I like what this rotational unit can do. I think Mendozi's a really solid player. He's really good in the backfield. He has to have full pressure, though. Get a bunch of tackles for loss, really be in the backfield, create some havoc for this offensive line.
Now look at the middle of the defense. 2 good linebackers, Adam Thomas, Caleb Fortner. They also have another guy in Brett Grana who will get involved. All these guys have been solid. They've been consistent. They're the top producers for this defense as well. Fortner's 8.5 TFL. He also has the second most tackles with 62, and then Thomas has 79. It's a respectable trio here, Nick. I don't think there's going to be any issues. These guys are going to be big, great leaders, especially in these, third and potentially fourth and shorts against the run. These guys are going to be pushing the issue, and I think they might be successful in doing so.
Still linebacking court unit that's good pieces here, some really solid leaders for this team. I like what they can do, their physical unit overall. Andon Thomas is really good, 72 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss for him. Caleb Fortner is really good as well, 62 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss for him. He's solid and covered as well. Chance Keats good at rotational reps, 38 total tackles, 2 pass breakups, a solid coverage asset himself. This is a good linebacking core. I like what they got in the middle here. This whole front part of this defense is a solid unit. Some good numbers from them this year.
They're looking at Army secondary. And usually there's a concern when these service academies play against tougher passing attacks because they're not accustomed to seeing that type of talent in practice, and they've proven they can handle the challenge very well. Against North Texas a couple weeks ago, held them to 3 points, had 2 interceptions, only 214 yards allowed, and throughout the year they've been pretty stable against the pass. They've been able to snag 16 interceptions compared to only 12 touchdowns allowed. You have 2 good corners, Jaden Mays, Donovan Platt. They've been good in coverage. Horrendous tacklers, though. Their run defense abilities will be certainly tested in this matchup, while Justin Weaver is a more consistent player in both of those regards, so he might get on the field a good bit. You look at safety, another group, Chance Keith in the slot. He's been, wishy-washy, I guess you could say. In coverage, been a little iffy. I think overall he's a good leader for him. And then at safety, Casey Larkin and then Max DiMarcinio are going to be the top 2 players. Both of them are pretty good as well, even though tackling for Larkin's also been a bit of an issue. I think they can cover these guys, Nick. It's certainly going to be hard because it's a lot of play-action passing, a lot of crossing routes, a lot of go routes as well. So it's going to be a lot of one-on-one opportunities. I think Army, for the most part, will handle it well. But if they're not slowing down the run, it's going to be because these DBs can't tackle.
These DBs got to be strong in this game. I think it starts with the safeties. Max DiMonico has been a solid piece. 47 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss for him. 2 interceptions, 4 pass breakups. Casey Larkin's been good as well. 40 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions for him. Decent production out of him. I like what I've seen out of them. So far, Justin Weaver, 27 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions. And then Jaden Mays, 21 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 picks, 2 pass breakups. He's got to be good. Weaver's got to be good too. I worry about this secondary. They certainly can face some difficulty here. That's a concerning unit for me.
Now we move to the Tulane defense, a group that's also been very solid against the run, only giving up 101 yards per game in conference. That number was significantly, uplifted when they just played Memphis, who ran for 236 on them. I mean, they got dominated in that game. Looking for a big bounce back here. They played Navy, held them to 100 yards. So they've seen this rushing attack before, played a tough USF scheme, held them to 26 rushing. These guys can clearly play ball. Starts with some good players up front, Patrick Jenkins, Matthew Fobbs-White, Aiden Huntington. I mean, this is a dominant trio here on the interior of Cameron Hamilton, who's having a great year, and then Patrick Peterson. This is a phenomenal run-stopping unit, Nick. We didn't see that against Memphis. It's a disappointing effort. I expect a big bounce back here from this group. They don't create, a great amount of negative plays, about 6.5 tackles for loss a game, but it's a collective group again up front, and I think Tulane, this is a big opportunity for them to flex some muscle like they have throughout the year.
This is a big opportunity for this unit. That's a big physical defensive line. I like what they have here. Huntington's a really good player. 23 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks for him. Jenkins probably the best defensive asset here. 23 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, 2 pass breakups. Forbes-White's been really good as well for this team. I really like what the numbers that he can do so far this year. 21 total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. Cameron Hamilton has been really good as well. 21 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. Gerald Henderson's been good at times. 20 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks for him. Good numbers here. Good unit overall. I like this defensive line here. They're going to face a run defense. Memphis had a lot of success running the ball against them. Can Army find that similar success? I think it's certainly possible.
Middle of the defense, is just as good. Sam Howard's a great run defender. Tyler Grubbs is a leader, has been around for a couple of years. And then Dixon Agu will get on the field a good bit. Chris Rogers as well. He's been a pretty consistent performer. Coverage has been an issue for these Tulane linebackers. It certainly hasn't really burned them. It did against, of course, Memphis this past weekend. Another opportunity for them to flip the script on what we just saw, Nick. The linebackers aren't greatly productive. I mean, this is just a collective group. It's not about numbers. It's about collectively playing strong football, and that's what Tulane does. Is the top tackler is Grubbs with only 53 stops.
Yeah, Grubbs is the top tackler, but 53 stops is probably a little disappointing. It is a group effort for this team, though. A by-committee approach, 53 for him, 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 2 picks, including one he took for a touchdown, 1 pass breakup. Howard's been good for this team as well. 43 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks for him, plus an interception and a pass breakup. Dixon Agu's been solid in rotational reps, 26 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss for him, plus a sack. And then Chris Rogers is also a solid coverage asset, 19 total tackles, a pick, and a pass breakup for him, a pick that he returned for a touchdown, that is. So I do think this linebacking core is a decent unit here. They got to be strong, though. They've been weak at points this year. They were weak against Memphis. Can they have a big bounce back game? I think it's possible, but I feel like they're going to have another disappointing letdown game potentially.
Now you look at Tulane secondary that's also been quite splendid this year. Comparable opponent, though, North Texas scored 37 on the Green Wave. They had 449 yards passing. Most of that was in garbage time. They were up big in that contest. UNT was playing from behind for the entire game. So that is a big disclaimer. That was about it, though, on that game. And that's the only time they've really struggled this year against Navy. Another triple option attack. Completed only 3 passes for 13 yards, and they snagged an interception. So the game plan in that contest worked tremendously. You have top corners Micah Robinson, Rayshawn Pleasant. You look at your safety group, it's going to be Caleb Ransaw, who's having a pretty good year in the slot. And then at safety, Bailey Despain, Jalen Geiger. Those are going to be your main guys. Geiger's having a great year. These guys have been good against the run, the safeties have. That's going to be the big thing, though, when you play these attacks, Nick, is just being disciplined, mainly with your eyes, your tackling, of course, not getting beat on those hard play actions, downfield shots. Tulane's proven they can pass that test, and I think here they'll be just as good.
Certainly got to be disciplined against this offense that can really attack you downfield when you're not paying attention. Despain's been really good for this team, 41 total tackles, 3 sacks for him, a pass breakup. Jack Tichidolo has been solid at safety as well for this team, 39 total tackles, 1 interception, 1 tackle for loss for him, an interception he took for a touchdown. Kevin Adams has been really good, 37 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss. Rashad Pleasant's been solid as well. He had a pick 6 he took for 100 yards, 33 total tackles, a tackle for loss, 3 pass breakups. Caleb Renshaw, 31 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups, while Micah Robinson's been really good in coverage. 6 pass breakups, 23 total tackles, and a pick for him. Meanwhile, Jalen Geiger's been solid as well, 23 total tackles and a pick for him. Solid numbers. The secondary is going to have to be focused, right? Because the Army could, at any moment, unleash that deep ball, hit you through the air, and really catch you off guard. Got to be on your toes because they're not going to throw the ball a whole lot, but when they do, they could certainly punish you.
Now we move to the tail of the tape. Team comparisons. Bryson Dale will give him the edge at quarterback. That's about it. I think top to bottom, Tulane is better than Army at all of these spots. I don't think there's many concessions that can be made about that either.
No, I can't really fight you here. I think this makes a lot of sense. This is a very balanced Tulane team, an Army team that's just a bit weaker in a lot of regards. I think it makes sense to give the tail of tape comparisons to Tulane here, but on a given Saturday, or in this case, any given Friday, you really never know what could happen on the field.
Looking at the final thoughts on the prediction. Keys to the game for Army, they're going to need to find some explosive pass plays, create some short fields. Tulane, Hughes will be the man, but also execute on play action. Don't fold defending the run now like you did last week. Got to get back to who you are and what you've been all year long. Tulane, 26-24. Me, I picked them to win the conference in the preseason. I think I was one of the only people that did. I really thought this team had great talent across the board, and they've showcased it throughout the season. They're a legit ball club. And I think with all the edges they have against Army, they're going to get the job done. I just think top to bottom, they are the better football team. It's not great that they now have to go on the road. Is what it is, though. It's not going to be like a loud, hostile environment by any means in West Point. Tulane, though, they're going to win this game, Nick. You're going with the Black Knights to go with the upset. I think that's certainly possible, but I also think it's possible the Green Wave just run away with this.
I think it's possible. I like Army here in this one. This game is being played in New York, not too far from where I grew up. I went to games at Michie Stadium as a kid, a great venue to watch a game. one of the first, exciting venues I went to as a kid. The first college football game I went to was Army. So Army is a team that I hold dear to my heart, and I think this is a big opportunity for them. They can go out and win a conference. The cadets are going to show up and be strong in there. They're really going to be loud and proud and really support this team. It's going to be cold. 8 o'clock kickoff, going to be about 25, 26 degrees. Right on the river there, so you do get a breeze as well. I like Army to win this one. I think Tulane's going to be caught off guard a little bit by the offense. I think Army will have some long drives, sustaining drives where they get points, maybe force a turnover or two as well. We've seen that this Tulane team is vulnerable. They lost to Memphis on Thanksgiving. I think they're a little bit weaker than people expect them to be. And I like Army to pull up a nice upset here and win this game and grab a conference crown and wrap up a phenomenal season. They go 11-1 in the regular season. It really is impressive before they go on to a bowl game where Army's not going to have any opt-outs. Everyone's going to play in the bowl game, and they're probably good money to win whatever bowl game they're in, depending on the matchup, of course. But I think they're probably the team you want to pick in Bowl Mania just because they're not going to have any opt-outs. You're going to have everyone play and really fight for one more game. I like the way they fight. I like the energy from this Army team. It's a fun team. I know they lost to Notre Dame, but that was just a big discrepancy in talent. Discrepancy is not as much here. I like the Black Knights in this one. Give me Army. I think they're going to go out and win this game.
Wait for this episode. As always, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.